Good afternoon. I was explaining that I was going to do an upgrade to my air system at some point, and I've done it. So I just wanted to go through it. So here's the switch that turns on the compressor. This little panel on a Dodge Ram 1500 2012 is super nice to mount things to, because there's absolutely nothing in there. So, well, I mean, very little, and there's lots of clearance behind it. I've got my air gauge coming up from the crack underneath my steering wheel, which does not get pinched whenever I change the angle of my steering wheel, which is super great. But anyhow, there you go. The manifold and whatnot I showed you last time, but I'll quickly cover it again. I've got my output sitting there for the front, my manifold, which I've got this electric shutoff that is now no longer required, but so I'll be taking it out of there. I've also got a small leak in here somewhere. These connectors that I used, I listed them on my website, but they're the generic, the universal connectors, but they leak. At least one of them does. I don't know if it's a problem with just the one connector that I've got back here, but it seems to keep happening. It's this guy right here. The leak actually comes from inside here. And now I'm familiar with these guys doing this, but usually you plug a tool into it and it reseats and everything's happy. But for some reason this guy just does not want to seat properly. So I had on my old compressor, my Air, I had set up this relay that I didn't realize, but with the ARB is totally not necessary because the relay is built in. But here, this is my heavy duty Anderson connector that I use for all of my roadside rescue stuff that I do. This is the cable that comes with the ARB compressor, but two big fuses in here, and then I just resoldered the connectors from the Air onto this connector. So the this guy here, the ARB dual screw air compressor with its CFM at 25 psi is 4.8, I believe it is, which is high enough to run my plasma cutter. I don't think I ever would, but the other thing is that's 25 psi, not 100 psi like it requires. So it'd be interesting. I can do some tests because they don't have any specs for how many CFM at the higher pressures. Now I had added, because the Air gets so damn hot, I added this guy. Let's get that out of the picture so it doesn't confuse. I added this guy. This is just an expansion chamber. This is because the air coming off of a compressor is oftentimes quite warm, and that's a heat-rated hose. And I thought I'd give myself a little space to work, but this damn compressor compresses so fast that the couplings don't even have the time to really get warm. I'm sure if I used it for its 100% duty cycle that it's supposedly capable of, that I would probably need it, but I'm gonna leave it on there for probably the next couple of days while I do some testing, but I suspect it's coming off, and then the quick fitting, or the pneumatic quick fitting over here, will just go right on the top, right into this little elbow. So, but anyways, you can see that blue hose goes off, and then down through the floor, and then to the tank, which I had explained I would put underneath. Of course, you're gonna make a liar out of me. I've been playing around with the connector in this door, so it's not coming down, the step's not coming down every time. But anyways, just wanted to show. That's the back side of the tank. It's nice to have that big opening because a couple of times in an older compressor, I wish that I could have inspected the inside of the tank, but sprayed it with some rock guard just to make it a little bit nicer, and then all the fittings are hidden up top. But yeah, so that's the crux of the system. But I have to tell you, I did a quick test charging, filling some tires, and it filled my 21s in record time. I wish I had a stopwatch going. I'll add it to the comments at some point. I'll end up doing it again, but I'd like to show you compressor time. So I'm going to fire it up here. I've left the window open between the cab so that I know when the compressor's running, because when I close the window, you can't hear anything at all.
It's probably, if I had to guess, I think that's about a 3-gallon tank. This thing fills faster than my home air compressor, and it has a 100% duty cycle. So I think right about here is where we're losing that 4.5 CFM or 4.8 or whatever it is. I do notice a small difference whenever I actually apply some gas. Bring my RPMs up. So that's 100 psi. This ARB compressor has an automatic cutoff built into it at 150 psi. The other thing is I've hydrostatic tested every single part up to 300 psi. So I pressurize the whole system with water, and then using a grease gun to do the pressure test. If you ever hydrostatic test with a grease gun, just be really careful because water does not compress. So it goes from 0 pressure to 100 pounds lickety split. Just got to be careful. 140 pounds. There we go. The window's open, so you should hear it shut off. There you go. Just shut off. Now, see the light's still lit. It's still running. Here's the crazy part. Nothing is even lukewarm. Nothing. It's crazy.